10. Deadly Realtor. A respected realtor from the Ozarks has gotten busted for getting wrapped up in a murder-for-hire plot. Ann Bauman was arrested for hiring a hitman to kill the mother of her ex-husband. According to documents filed with the Camden County Circuit Court, Ann Bauman's motive for hiring the hitman was simple. She believed her ex-husband's mother was responsible for putting strain on the relationship between her and her daughter. She also thought that the woman was going to be taking her to court to try and get full custody of her children. One day when Bauman went to pick up her children, they refused to go with her. She was forced to leave, at which point she sent them a text saying that their grandmother was going to be dead. When the ex-husband confronted Bauman about the text, she simply said it was because the woman was old and would probably die soon. But in reality, she was actively looking for a hitman. The person Bauman went to look for a contract killer has not been named for their own safety. However, the individual did say that if Bauman was serious, they could find a killer for her. But really, the individual was on the phone with their attorney, trying to figure out how to get this woman arrested. She eventually set up a sting operation. Bauman paid a measly $1,500. The witness then went to the cops, and the rest is history. She's now charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and is sitting in court waiting for her sentencing. 9. Russian assassin. 34-year-old Tumso Abdurakhmanov is a well-known blogger from Chechnya who amazingly survived an assassination attempt while in Sweden. Tumso was living in Copenhagen when a man appeared at his apartment with a hammer held in one hand. Apparently, the guy with the hammer had flown from Moscow with the express intention of bludgeoning Tumso to death for being vocal about his anti-Putin stance. While Russia has been accused of secretly assassinating a whole lot of people recently, most of these assassinations involve nerve gas or poisoning. This one was just an ordinary guy with a hammer. But here's where the hitman really messed up. He wasn't very good at his job. The blogger, after being hit in the neck several times with a hammer, got the weapon away from the guy. He then bludgeoned the hitman with his own hammer, beating him to within an inch of his life in front of his apartment door. It was a total fail on the part of the hitman. He even admitted that he had been sent from Moscow to take care of Tumso. When the police got to the scene, they discovered the gruesome spectacle of two Russian citizens covered in blood from the vicious battle with a hammer. The bigger man, the man who had broken into Tumso's apartment, had already slipped into unconsciousness. Both were arrested. After 3 days of police questioning, Tumso was reclassified as a crime victim, and the other man, 29-year-old Ruslan Mamiev, was detained on suspicion of attempted murder. 8. The Florida Escort. Dalia Dipolito was sentenced to spend 16 years in prison back in 2017. The sentence came after she was found guilty of soliciting murder. She was recorded on video and audio freely plotting to kill her husband, Michael Dipolito. At the time, she had been married to him for only 6 months. The assassination attempt was in 2009. It took 11 years for her to finally be sentenced, although she did get time served since she had already been locked up that whole time. But let's back it up to when she tried to hire a hitman. Dalia agreed to pay an undercover officer $7,000 to have her husband knocked off. When asked if she was sure that she wanted him killed, she said she was 5,000% sure. She plotted with the undercover officer to make it look like a burglary gone wrong. Her husband was supposed to be killed while she was out at the gym. How did the undercover officer get involved in all this? Dalia had originally approached her ex-boyfriend to see if he could source a hitman. Instead of doing that, he went straight to the police, who helped set up the sting operation. 7. Outsourcing. Authorities in China have charged 6 men with crimes of intentional homicide. According to the officials, all 6 individuals had tried outsourcing the killing of one target to another hitman. In other words, One individual hired a hitman to kill somebody, the hitman he hired outsourced the killing to another hitman, and so on and so forth. It went on down the line until 5 hitmen were involved. All 5 of the hitmen were sentenced to spend between 2 and 4 years in prison, while the guy at the top of the pyramid who requested the hit in the first place was given 5 years. The man behind it all is a real estate developer named Don Huey. In 2013, he decided he wanted to kill his rival developer. It was all about a dispute regarding a development project. Ton paid a man somewhere around $280,000 to complete the job. Now, if you ask us, that sounds like real hitman money. That's the kind of cash that will get you Agent 47 showing up to do the job. The hitman took the money, then used half of it to hire a cheaper hitman. He paid the cheaper hitman only $38,000 up front, with the promise of $71,000 when the job was done. And we keep going down the line. The job was offered to a third man for even less money. It was kicked down the line to the 4th, then finally to the 5th. The very last hitman was promised $14,000 in total to do the job. Through all this outsourcing, the police caught on to the scheme, came cracking down on everybody, and the hit was never carried out. Talk about some seriously lazy killers. 6. The Dark Web Preacher. In Minnesota, a preacher was stuck in a failing marriage. His name is Stephen Allwine, and he was recently on trial for premeditated first-degree murder. The preacher tried to hire a hitman on the dark web using Bitcoin, but his plan fell apart. Unlike most of the other failed murder plots we heard about today, this guy actually took the murder into his own hands. He killed his wife, Amy Allwine, and then tried to make it look like she had killed herself. She was found dead on November 13, 2016. They had been married for decades after originally meeting at a Christian college. They were active church members and had an adopted son together. So what went wrong? Stephen had served as the church elder. He was a deacon, and he even offered marriage counseling. He seemed like a perfectly ordinary guy, but when he learned about the site called Ashley Madison, where people can sign up to have affairs, the Holy Spirit left his body. According to Fox News, the preacher had affairs with at least 2 women. But then when the breach in security caused all the Ashley Madison users to be outed, the preacher decided it was time to kill his wife before she found out about his affairs. Where does a person go when they need a hitman? The dark web. The preacher found a shady hitman on the site and paid him $6,000 in Bitcoin. But then the hitman conveniently vanished, and the preacher was stuck doing the murder himself. Do you know anyone who's ever tried to do something strange on the dark web? Let us know your stories in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe before the end of the video. 5. The Doctor and the Hells Angels. A doctor has been accused of hiring the legendary biker gang known as the Hells Angels to get rid of a witness. This witness knew all about the doctor improperly prescribing opioids to his patients. The doctor's name is Anatoly Brailovsky, and he was in some serious hot water because of the allegations against him. While waiting to go on trial for writing fraudulent prescriptions, he turned to the Hells Angels. He asked if they could murder the witness before he had the chance to testify against the doctor. If the one witness is suddenly dead, though, doesn't that make the doctor look even more suspicious? What do you think? But guess what? This time, the Hells Angels weren't really feeling like murder. Somebody, we don't know if it was actually one of the angels, contacted the FBI after the doctor came looking for a killer. The unnamed informant, with help from the FBI, set up a sting operation. He met the FBI agent at the local Home Depot, where in the parking lot they discussed murder. However, this case is a little different. The doctor didn't trust the undercover agent. He never explicitly requested that he commit murder for money. He also never exchanged any money for the service. So now he's facing a kind of gray area crime in which he did seek a hitman, but didn't actually go through with it. Nonetheless, when added to the fraud charges, he's looking at some serious time behind bars. 4. Italian Black Widow. Patricia Reggiani, known to some as the Black Widow, was found guilty of paying a hitman somewhere around $300,000 in 1995 to murder Maurizio Gucci, the heir to a fashion empire. Maurizio had left Patrizia for another woman. Not only that, he was seeing several other women as well. She was so angry that he had betrayed her, and she wanted more than the measly $650,000 that he offered in the divorce settlement. So she went around asking everyone she could if they knew someone who was brave enough to murder her husband. She claims she couldn't aim a gun very well. Otherwise, she would have done it herself. Eventually, she came across a hitman named Benedetto Cirolo, the owner of a pizzeria who was in serious debt. She paid him a huge sum of money to shoot her ex-husband dead, and he did it too. He shot him on the steps of his office in Milan. It was right after he was going to work, with the pizzeria owner appearing out of nowhere and pulling the trigger. But amazingly, even after the pizzeria owner was caught, he kept his mouth shut. It took the police 2 years to finally figure out that it had been Patricia Reggiani who ordered the hit. She ultimately served 18 years in prison, being released in October of 2014. 3. Ranch hand assassin. An animal rights lawyer recently pled guilty to offering somebody $100,000 to kill her ex-husband's girlfriend. And to make the story even more bizarre, the animal rights attorney sought the help of a simple ranch hand to do the murder. The lawyer's name is Jennifer Emmy from Evergreen in Colorado. At the time of the murder-for-hire plot, she was locked in a desperate divorce battle with her ex-husband. Jennifer was 43 years old, but her husband, Donnie Emmy, had run away with a significantly younger girl who had been working for them as an au pair. An au pair is someone like a live-in nanny who lives in the house and takes care of the kids and does the chores. Literally every wife's worst nightmare. As you can probably imagine, Jennifer was heartbroken. Her husband ditched her for the younger nanny. Furious and angry, she lost her marbles. She went to a ranch hand that she knew named Timothy Lindsay. Timothy told her it would cost $100,000 to hire a contract killer. They then discussed the killings in detail, with Jennifer having some pretty intense ideas. She wanted the girlfriend to be killed in a car accident, preferably with her ex-husband in the vehicle at the time. But instead of doing it, the ranch hand got in contact with the police. Jennifer was arrested for attempting to hire a hitman, and now she's locked up for good. 2. Insurance fraud. Alex Murdaugh hired a hitman for himself. In a bizarre case of insurance fraud, Alex paid a contract killer to murder him by surprise. That way his family would get the death insurance payout. Now you're probably wondering why on earth a person would do that. Alex had once been an ordinary member of society, but his life spiraled out of control after his wife and son were murdered, and he got horribly addicted to opioids. It didn't help that before that, his son was responsible for a boat accident that saw an innocent woman get killed. Talk about bad luck. Basically, his life went from awesome to garbage. With most of his family dead and only one son alive, Alex was absolutely miserable. He hatched the scheme to be murdered by a hitman so that his only remaining son could collect $10 million from his life insurance policy. That is a huge chunk of money to leave behind as inheritance, but the plot was a failure. The guy that Alex hired to assassinate him refused to do it. Instead of giving his son all that money, Alex is now being brought up on charges of fraud. 1. Hitman Fakeout. Ramon Sosa from Houston, Texas was almost killed by his wife when she hired a hitman to take him out. And to add insult to injury, his wife had actually hired a former client of Ramon's to do the job for a measly $2,000. The story goes back to 2013, when Ramon's wife, Lulu, was granted U.S. citizenship and moved from Mexico City to Texas. But for one reason or another, she didn't really like her husband. She was amazing while they were dating. then became a completely different person once she was in the country. Ramon became aware of her plot to murder him after a friend of his told on her. His friend, an ex-gang member, was the one Lulu had gone to offer the $2,000. The pair took their evidence to the police, who then helped Ramon fake his own death. They staged a photo shoot in which Ramon lay in a grave with a fake bullet hole in the center of his head, appearing dead as a doornail. Next, Ramon went into hiding for 3 days. When an undercover FBI agent made contact with Lulu, he showed her the photos of her supposedly dead husband. She simply laughed. It was clear she had been trying to murder him, and so she was arrested. She's currently serving 20 years in an American jail. Do you have any experience with a hitman? Let us know your wacky stories in the comments, and thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button and check back again for more awesome videos from the channel. See you next time. Bye.